Hello, everybody. If it's Wednesday, it's Warhammer, and that means it's time for another episode of Warhammer Weekly. Joining me this week for our Ninth Age Extravaganza show is the one, the only, the head of the content team, the singular and legendary Lord Tremendous. How you doing, buddy?
How's it going, everybody? Yes, I am the singular phenomenon that is Lord Tremendous, and they're still working on a vaccination. So, whatever happens.
You are the patient zero of the Lord Tremendous phenomenon. Yes,
This is where it starts. This is definitely where it starts.
Yes. But yeah, today we're going to be talking a lot about Ninth Age stuff, especially in light of the recent news of the freeze. We're going to take a deep dive on that, on the current state. We're going to talk about, kind of where we think the game is at and why it happened. We're going to talk it up and down, and hopefully at the end of it, you will agree that everything will be okay. All will be all right, and we will all get through this together. All right. So, but of course, first we got some news. I don't have Tom with me this week. No little assistant this week. And that's okay. We brought Lord T's dogs, which is nice, I think.
Yeah. They must know that we're recording now because everything was quiet until and I can't yell at them to shut up because it'll blow everyone's speakers. You think Shyhammer's loud?
So let's just jump right in. Obviously, there's not a huge amount of news beyond the T9A stuff this week, that was the big one. But the change rolls on. We've got the new Disciples Battle Tome. We've got the new Lord of Change. Obviously, all that looks good. We saw the Kairos model. We saw all the War Scrolls spoiled, so all those look cool. Lots and lots of good stuff. We're going to deep dive on a lot of that next week once we've got the final versions of everything. We're going to do a full breakdown on all of that. So that is all coming. Some other interesting notes. So, Lord T, did you ever play Necromunda back in the day?
Yes, I did.
Did you like Necromunda back in the day?
Of course. It's right in my wheelhouse.
It's violent, dirty gangs shooting each other.
Permadeath? Oh, yeah. Zip guns?
Absolutely. So, are you excited for the new Necromunda video game that's coming?
I don't know. I will play it. But honestly, I was disappointed in the Mordheim game that came out. I felt like I was fighting the camera more than I was fighting my opponent. So I'm hoping that Necromunda flows better and everything. So I'm on the fence. I was really excited about Mordheim, started up an army, played it, but like I said, it felt like I was fighting the camera more than I was my opponents, and I lost interest. So I'm hoping that Necromunda is better, at least at the very minimum, with camera views and everything like that. So we'll see.
No, I get it. Yeah, I get that. It's one of those things where, like, I almost feel like our ability with the modern technology almost gets in the way. Like, what I mean by that is this. Imagine if that Mordheim game was just like old school late 90s isometric style, and you were literally just like moving around instead of going down to their perspective and being behind their shoulder and zipping around from piece to piece. I honestly think I probably would have liked that better, and it wouldn't bother me, I mean, now, given I'm weird with this stuff, but, graphically, I don't need the graphics. I would just love to be able to play that game with other people around the world easily, you know what I mean? And being top down like that, that's how I normally play the game on the table, right? That's what we're doing with war games. We're looking from that isometric top-down perspective. Every game, I'm looking at my little plastic dollies from that perspective. I don't get down at them, other than maybe very occasionally, I don't get down there and be like, what's going on? You know what I mean? That's not how it goes. So I don't know. Maybe it's just me. Well, but I am excited about the Necromunda one.
Look at the Blood Bowl video game, or even like Ogre Tactics or Final Fantasy Tactics. That's all, hexes and stuff. That would have been fine. I don't need this big laid out map, this convoluted ruins. I get it. Everything's screwed up, dying, and beat up because the asteroid hit or whatever. But, make it playable. Quit making it so difficult for me to figure out where everybody's at.
Yeah. And it's not like we couldn't do height, because I think of that 3/4 isometric view. I understood multi-levels and height in Ultima Online in 1997. I'm pretty sure we can master that technology today. So anyway. So I'll be watching that. I very much I never loving a 40K at that time when Necromunda was really big and popular. Mm-hmm. I never got to play it much, and kind of the time passed. But this could be, if the game is really good, I'm pretty excited about this. I think it'd be a cool chance to get back into it in the same way that like the Blood Bowl video game over time, or like you said, the Mordheim video game. But yes, I do agree with you on the camera perspective. All right, so let's leave behind. We don't have much else in the way of news. It's a slow news week, but that's okay. Let's jump right in to some picks of the week, because I think there's actually lots of content, and since we've got the king of content here with us, I feel it's only appropriate. The community's making the news this week. That's what I say. So if you've got one or even a couple picks of the week, LT, why don't you share them out there? I got a few things to watch.
Well, my main pick of the week is going to be Blondebeard of the Orange Road. He's got the best video out there that I've seen so far on the conversation about the freeze of the 9th Age rules and everything like that, the reasoning behind it. And he's also not only a content provider, but he's also like on the board and stuff. Like he's higher up in there, so he's got a real insider's perspective of why it was done, what was going on, and he gave us the information. You know, I mean, it's like having an exec or a vice exec right there going, okay, well, this is what we were all thinking, and this is why we're doing it, and this is why it's a positive thing, and we understand this, that, and the other thing, but hey, here's what we're looking for. And it's all in his video. It's perfect. If you're like, why are they freezing it? Click on his video. And he also does a whole bunch of great battle reports and content, and gosh, he does this series where he looks over units that are considered too weak or excluded or non-includes or whatever. It's a great channel full of a lot of information. And if you don't know about it and you're not subscribed to it yet, go and remedy that situation and join the online sensation that is Blondebeard before we all leave you behind.
I support that pick 100%. I watched the video earlier today. It's great. What I really like about it is he's he's the head of PR, but he's a pretty straight talker, right? Like he's not sitting there like smoothing things over, hitting you in the face with marketing speech or something like that.
Propaganda,
yeah, exactly. He's a guy, he's a player, he's talking to you straight. He loves the game too. You know, he's not giving you some kind of like sugar-coated nonsense. He tells you what it is, and he's openly admitting of some of that, that he knows there's challenges, of course.
Yep.
Obviously. But in the end, it's like, as he points out, I think rather well, that the end of this road is more positive, right, because of this. And I think that that's worth it. It's a little bit of pain. We're going to deep dive on it a little more here in a minute. All right, so my pick, I want to point out that our old friend Ant, formerly of the Sustainable Center, now of HR, has been back. And just like, I don't know what happened. If like a switch flipped in his head or something, I don't know what happened there. But he has been making content like nobody's business. Like once a day, he's got a new video going up. So go check out HR's channel, Ant's channel. I'll link it down below. He has a lot of different discussions. He did some KOE comparisons. He had a rather revolutionary video he posted last night, that I thought was interesting, and I can't say I totally disagreed with, but I know he will get a lot of hate for that. And it was that the Kingdom of Aquitaine should cease existing and should simply be folded into the Empire of Sonstal, like as a, I think what he was basically arguing is that it should be folded in as like one of the sub armies. Like you think of, obviously, your ogres. And LT knows the ogres well, and obviously there's a couple different builds within there, right? We can go for the hunter-themed army and something like that. The question becomes, could you just do KOE as one of those builds, right? Within there, like kind of maybe restrict the troop choices a little. Maybe then you could add in some extra, you could evoke something like the blessing, and then we don't have this duplication of a lot of different units. Did you watch his video on the folding that in? Basically, with the wonderful clickbaity title of the Kingdom of Aquitaine has got to go, which I thought was like, boy, way to just start the controversy hot. That boy just throws gasoline in a match.
Well, the Sustainable Center, and that's how I'll always know him. I don't care what the hell he calls his channel. I know his name is Ant. I know his current channel is HR. I get all that. I don't care. He's always going to be TSC to me. And him, Malorian, and The Godfather, Once Bitten, 360 are the three battle reporters that first caught my attention when I started watching them on YouTube. So whenever they put something out, I watch it. And Ant definitely has had the most savage, brutal, controversial videos lately, and like you said, I don't know what firecracker got set off underneath him and why all of a sudden he's just on board with everything. But I'm thrilled that he's making videos again. I don't even care what it's about. It could be, more political garbage for all I care. I just like to see him putting out more videos and stuff. So when I saw the King of Ecatane one, of course I watched it. And while I don't fully agree with him, I don't not see the merit of his idea of combining the two books. And to be honest with you, it's been in the back of my mind churning ever since I watched the video. It's like, it's not a terrible idea, but I could see a lot of KOE players feeling betrayed. A lot like very similar to when the Infernal Dwarf players lost their book back when fantasy was a thing. You know what I mean? And
sure,
because that's what they would see it as. Kingdom of Ecatane has been destroyed, and now it's a diluted sub army of the Sonstal army. And but then again, there's people that would be like, this is awesome because now I have all these merged up stuff. It's the same thing that happened in the end times when Undead got merged. Oh, my Tomb Kings are no longer a thing. My Vampire Counts are no longer a thing the way I remember it. No, it's all combined, and you'd have, see? I'm arguing with myself. I don't know what direction I want to go. So that's why I like his videos, though, because it makes the little voices in my head all start talking about the same subject.
Yeah, I would totally agree. Certainly not everything he's posted. What I love is that he is not afraid to throw those bombs, and he does start some conversation. It's exactly that. He gets you thinking, right?
Absolutely.
So I'd say, and I don't want to just watch the things I agree with. I like it when people post some thought-provoking stuff, right? And as he openly admits, he's not like saying, this is how it has to be, this is the way of the world, right? He's just like, I don't know anything, but here's my idea, right? And I'm in exactly the same boat as you are. Like, I think I come down maybe 51% on the side of I agree with him, but there's a very yelling like 49% that's like, no, you traitor, right? Like that is yelling the other half of me. So, I get it. It's a tough thing. You're exactly right. There's a tough change management right there. And I know as it stands right now, a lot of the KOE players are fairly unhappy with the status of their army. And we're not going to talk about individual army books this one, but
yeah, we are. Let's just it's gonna happen. No. Sure. Like you said, it's so hard to really pick a side in this because number one, his argument is solid, but at the same time, there's the emotional aspect. See, he's a very clinical, logical guy. He is the Vulcan of our community. And his logic is pure, and so it's hard to argue it because it's all emotional. It's like but the feels, man. It's all that history gone. But I get where you're coming from, so I don't know which side of the coin I'm on right here. Like you said, it's like I'm 49.5% this way and 50.5% the other way, and I'm not really sure which way is what. So. Right.
Yeah. Exactly. So that is my first pick. And my second pick, because I got a couple, you're far too humble. I think if there's one word we would associate with Lord Tremendous, it would be humility.
Oh, okay. I would have said fat.
Yeah. But I want to point to your new series, my friend, because I'm not sure. Like, I hope anybody who's watching this and is at all interested in the Ninth Age is watching the hottest new discussion show about T9A. Would you tell everybody about the new show you did? You had Materim and Green Dragon on, who I met for the first time for your show. It was very exciting.
Well, we are doing. I guess I'm doing a new series. It's going to be bi-weekly, and I've discovered that bi-weekly has a very different definition depending on where in the world you live. Every couple of weeks, so 2 weeks roughly, I and a couple of content team members, perhaps I can finally guilt Vince on or something like that. Maybe you can even bring his nurgling with Tom and stuff. But we are doing something called Tremendous T9A Square Table. And that's basically just like Warhammer Weekly, only we do exclusively Ninth Age content and subjects. And we did the first episode last week on, I think it was Friday. And we just discussed everything Ninth Age. I had Green Dragon Gaming on, I had Materim on, and we had a blast. It's an hour-long show where we just kind of babble about Ninth Age stuff. I have no doubt that in the next episode, we're going to talk all about the freeze and where we're at and what we think of it now that we've had some time to play some games and stuff. Just what we think of the whole situation and stuff like that. And if you're a Ninth Age fan and you're interested in being on the show, let me know. Contact me through my channel or whatnot. I mean, my email and everything's plastered all over all my videos. And maybe we'll throw you on there and you get to tell the whole community through the magic of YouTube's what you think. You know, just come up there and curse me out for an hour. That'll be fun too. Whatever you want to do. But it is something that we're excited about. We're having fun with it.
That's good YouTube right there. I would definitely watch that one. Just somebody just dressing you down, yelling at you angrily for an entire hour. Every so often, just giving like a moment for them to catch your breath and you to be like, what? No, and then right back into it. That'd be quality YouTube right there.
Okay, so what you're saying is you want my wife to be a co-host. Got it. She's not here. I can get away with that. She watches this though. Tremendous is going to disappear.
Sure. No, there will become bi never again instead of bi-weekly. Yes, absolutely. All right. So the next thing I want to talk about. Speaking about your wife, that's going to be a good lead-in for the next segment, since she's the one who does all of your hobby work for you.
Yes.
Let's talk about some hobby time, man. What are you working on? What's currently in the production line, in the LT production line?
Currently, she's doing online college and stuff right now, and she's got a full-time job, so she kind of ran out of time, and I'm going to Adepticon, yes, in March. I wanted to go to Red River Rumble so bad. I had everything in a row, and then Tuesday when we get back from work, my boss calls me in and says, we can't give you that time off because something came up, and I have to be there, and I swore, but I'd let the guys know I'm really disappointed I can't go to that, but maybe next year. But I am still going to Adepticon. I will quit my job if they try to stop that. And so that's going to be awesome. So I'm trying to get all my models done. I got to base them and everything still, but I kind of outsourced some of my models to another guy, and he took more of a flesh tone approach to it, and she took more of an earth tone approach. But I really like the contrast because that's so ogre. It's awesome. But so most of my stuff is done. Currently, my Rock is having a custom 3D printed base made for him. The whole thing is based off of Shyhammer. So the base is going to be on a cobblestone road, crushing an ambulance and maybe some weight, equipment everywhere. And then she'll paint that up, which will be awesome. I've got a couple of Tusker cavalry with great weapons that either she or the guy that I've been outsourcing my projects to is going to paint. And then it's just basing, getting my display board I still have the display board from my Tomb King army. And I've got to ogre that up a little bit, and I'm going to use that. So my hobby time is actually quite full. I'm also putting together a scratch-built Werewolf Blood Bowl team, and exclusive release on Warhammer Weekly. I'm going to try to do video reports of my Blood Bowl games, progressives, kind of like the story, and see if I can pull that off. Similar to when I was doing War Machine battle reports, the video style and everything, and see if that's even worth doing or whatever. I'm probably going to do it just because it's fun for me. So my hobby time is actually quite rich right now, and
sounds like it, man. Jeez, you're really got a packed schedule there. I love it.
I like to get in over my head,
I'm happy to see that we finally brought. If I remember right, that Rock came to, the idea was sort of conceived, born, whatever you want to say, with the last time we had both you and Shyhammer on the show, and it was discussed. So I feel like we've come full circle on this. I'm excited. I can't wait to see the finished product. It's going to be amazing.
Yeah, it's.
I can't wait to see it in person.
You will in March. I will be there. Oh, it's gonna be. I'm so excited. I'm stupid excited about that. I'm going to lose every game I play that weekend, and it's going to be the best gaming weekend of my life. What happened? Got tabled 18 times in this weekend, and I loved every single moment of it.
I can't help but agree because I'm serious, man. This is going to be the year. I've mentioned it on like every show. I'm going to mention it again because I feel compelled. If you have the chance, if you have the opportunity, if in any way, shape, or form you can get yourself to Adepticon this year, do it.
Yes.
Get to Adepticon. It is going to be an amazing year. No matter what you are playing, you will love it. This is the wargaming. it's the wargaming show of the year, and it's going to be bigger this year. All the events are going to be bigger. It's going to be amazing. So there you go. That's my pitch, my standard contractually obligated weekly pitch to come to Adepticon. And if you see me there, because I'll be there the whole week, stop by, say hi, shout out.
Absolutely. Come by, shake my hand, spit in my face. Well, don't do that. I'll punch you. But if
Shyhammer's around, he'll be right behind you. You don't want to,
yeah, if Shyhammer's there, he's gonna touch me on my face. Well, he might slap me in my face. I don't know. I hope he doesn't punch me. He's a big freaking guy.
That's what I'm saying. He'll be touching your face like the whole time. So if somebody spits on your face, they'll spit on Shyhammer's hand. And I would not cross.
We could probably deal with that. Yeah. I don't know how violent he is, though. I don't know. He just seems like such an even-tempered, happy guy. I don't know what it would take to piss him off. I don't want to find out, but yeah.
That's my point. No, I think he's one of the nicest people I've ever met. It's completely even-tempered, but I'm also pretty sure he could fold me up into a little tiny ball and hang me in a closet, right? So I'm not crossing him. That's all I'm saying. All right. My hobby time is also Adepticon-driven, although in a completely different way. Obviously, I'm on the road this week. My hobby time has been so limited. I was very happy I managed to get my Storm Giant finished last week. So that was super fun. I shared that out there. People seem to like him, which was great. But now when I go back, I'm working on my large scale figure for Adepticon. So my next 2 months are going to be a lot of competition pieces. That's what I'm doing. I have forcibly cut myself off from any army work. No buying of new armies. No buying of any new figs.
I don't believe you.
I've made a vow. I'll probably break that vow, but I'm trying, man. I'm really trying. And so hopefully I can get all my competition stuff ready. And then the floodgates will open up. I'll just be running around the game store like, I want all of this. So, until then, focus. This is the focus time.
Focus. Yeah, you're going to buy a model before this damn show's over. So what happened? It was just one. I just needed one. Oh.
I mean, you're probably not that well. Let me just start there, all right?
Let me just close out this tab and buy. Excellent.
Right. You're going to close this other browser. Never mind. That's not. What are you talking about? No, that wasn't on a checkout cart screen. You're out of your mind.
No. I didn't just spend $800 on models I desperately need. No, we're good. I'm right there with you. You're talking to the guy that almost ended his marriage because he bought $400 worth of models without consulting the wife first. Ooh, those were dark, tremendous days.
There was a storm cloud over the Tremendous household.
Oh yeah, Tremendous was in a lot of trouble. I made a terrible judgment call.
All right. So obviously, as always, we want to know what you're working on because certainly part of the goal of myself and LT rambling is not to communicate any great wisdom or insight because I don't think either of us would claim to have that. But if our incessant talking somehow allows you to get some models painted and to fight your war against the gray, then I'm calling this an absolute success. I should have said my other co-host this week is that's my other co-host right here. This is a replacement for Tom. It's this lady behind me watching everybody on the wall. I might just actually permanently replace Tom and put this up in my room.
She's been giving me the stink eye this entire time, which I feel is rude and fitting.
I think she likes you. That's what I think.
No, all not right, if she knew me. Yeah.
That's a good point. All right, but let's jump right into it. Obviously, one of the big things that happened this week was the announcement of the freeze. So, basic details. Let's run it down. Right now, the Ninth Age is in version 1.3, right? And I'm sure many of us have gotten some 1.3 games in. Obviously, 1.2 represented a big shift. I think we all knew that. We talked about that away from 1.1. That was done for a host of reasons, but as well, there were obviously some significant legal things, right? It's about making the game more its own thing. Totally understandable. I don't think any of us want to go down a bad road where any kind of bad legal situations happen. That doesn't work for anyone. So, but of course, because there were big sweeping changes, it also caused some imbalance. 1.3 sought to, I would say, some of it. Is that a fair statement, do you think, LT?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And I think in the current version, the various executive members looked at it and said, okay, the problem is working on these little iterative changes and the various army books and, sort of all these different, for lack of a better term, juggling all these different balls is preventing us from actually doing the work to get to 2.0 efficiently and effectively and to produce the highest quality product. And so they said, okay, what we're going to do is we're going to freeze the rules right here for at least, I think, 8 months.
August at the earliest.
The number. Yep. Okay. And so probably in the August-September timeframe, then there would be, then is when we would see the next movement. And then after that, probably after that, see then the Army book. Once the 2.0 happens, you're going to see that be a more locked, solid, long-term version because it's been able to be focused on and stuff like that. And then sometime after that, then you're going to see the Army book roll on and kind of all that, I suppose, trot out naturally, right? In the order you would naturally expect. Did I sum all of that up effectively enough? Does that feel right to you?
Everything sounds, spot on.
Okay. So what was your initial reaction to the freeze? What did you think of it?
Well, I knew the freeze was coming. I have a red tag. So in all fairness, I've known this was coming for a little while. It's just, it was G14 Secret Squirrel, and I wasn't supposed to blab about it. But I totally and thoroughly agree with it. And the reason for it, like Blondebeer explains, a lot of people explain, is to stop knee-jerk reactions. Where one of the main things that a lot of people, including the execs and a bunch of people were talking about, is the lack of game testing and stuff like that. Rule testing, the imbalances and stuff. Yes, 1.3 is not perfect. I totally understand that. Honestly, will the game ever be perfect? No. There will always be an imbalance or a perceived imbalance no matter what. And that's always going to happen. Are we going to make everybody happy? God, no. If we made everybody happy, then a black hole would form over the planet and we'd all die. It's just there has to be good and there has to be evil, the whole yin-yang thing. But with this freeze, it gives the rule team, it alleviates a lot of the pressure, the anxiety, the stress on the rules team and the execs and every other team that helps make and create these books and these rules. It allows them to better understand the current rules that are out there. And like they said in there, play testing, getting solid feedback from a large group, getting tournament results from large swaths of, from basically almost a year-long tournament scene, through War Score and everything like that from all over the world, as opposed to just certain parts of it. And it allows people to fully flesh out their arguments, maybe not by themselves, but through group discussions. So some people think, I'll use ogres. Some people think that Yetis are broken because they have lost skirmishers and now they have light troops. Some people are arguing they're unplayable now because of that, because they lost skirmishers and it needs to go back and I'll never feel them again and blah, blah, blah. Other people are saying, no, they're better now because X. And the only way to really determine all that is large-scale play testing. And since the Ninth Age has a budget of -0, the only way to do that is through community involvement, play testing, and feedback. And that's exactly what they're doing. And instead of being like, okay, we need to figure this out in 3 months and fix it or one way or the other, they're giving themselves at a minimum 8 months to gather all that information, make informed decisions, and flesh it out. Even try it internally, maybe through universal battles or, face-to-face contact type games to try everything out. I mean, for example, one of the biggest problems of 1.2 and even in 1.3 is people are complaining about the magic phase. And I get their argument. I do. I get both arguments. I totally understand both sides. So obviously, and this is even kind of alluded to in Blondebeard's video, magic is something that's probably going to get changed in some way, shape, or form. But instead of doing a knee-jerk reaction, the whole squeaky wheel gets the grease type of thing, but really your axle's about to break, instead of just fixing the wheel, they're doing a full systems check with this before they make any more big changes. And like was said in the release, if something huge has to happen, if there's a major break, like, it's not fair that scraplings can beat a unit of greater demons or whatever, scourges of wrath, all by themselves. That'll be fixed through an errata or an FAQ. But for the most part, here's the rule set. Play with it for the next 8 months minimum. Tell us what you think. Tell us your informed decisions. Give us your informed opinion. Okay, definitely scrapplings with bows is too powerful because in every single tournament we're seeing and in every single game that we're talking about, if somebody takes the full amount of core in scrapplings with bows, they steamroll their opponent. Okay, there's clearly a problem here, and we wouldn't have ever figured that out if we had just waited 2 months before the next change. It also grants stability. It grants people the time to take a breather, get used to the rules, get adapted to it before another change occurs. And then hopefully when it comes time for all that and the change to either 1.4 or 2.0, probably 1.4, is released at the end of the year, it'll be one that the vast majority, I'm hoping, not only approves of, but felt like they had a hand in to make this game the community involved project that it was always meant to be.
Yeah, absolutely. There's one more thing I want to touch on real quick, and I kind of want to get your thoughts on this. And it was something mentioned by Gladys on the Gladys. I don't know if I'm saying his forum name correctly. Yeah. He's on the executive board, and it's something he mentioned that I thought was, that I identified with a lot. Okay. So I've been doing, game design now for like 13 years or something like that. And one of the things he mentioned was they wanted to slow down a little bit to take the time to actually invest, the proper amount of thought into these things. And also, frankly, and not, this isn't a selfish statement, to avoid burnout of the people who are really heavily taxed by all of this very hard work. We talk a lot about how this is community driven and it's just everybody's free time, right? This isn't people collecting paychecks off of this stuff, right? And I can tell you right now, okay, as somebody who has spent months and months and months and months drilling on a book and 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 writing rules, do you know what happens after you've done that for a long enough time? You hate your own game.
You burn out.
That's what happens.
Absolutely, you burn out. It's like, I don't want to do this anymore. It's not fun. It's work.
Correct. Yes, and these are games that started as your ultimate passion, right? Like the thing you loved so much that you felt compelled and wanted to invest hundreds, if not thousands of hours to pull that thing from just, little firing neurons in your brain to a real physical thing in the world, right? And, as tremendous as you are a published author, it's a great book. I'm sure that you also know, authors experience this too, right? After editing and editing and editing, you can get to a point where you start to hate your own novel, right? And your own story, where you're just like, I can't read this again. I'm not seeing anything. That's why people employ separate editors and all that kind of thing. But, to me, there's something very real to that. Like, you don't want to cause burnout amongst significant members of the team who's bringing you this game, because it would be terrible if they started to do it out of just a sense of obligation of yes, I need to see this project, right? And I'm not saying that's happening to anyone. I think it's nothing but passionate people at the top who truly love the game. But my point is, if you just whip somebody repeatedly for months and are like, work harder, work harder, work harder, when this is a second job, let's be real, a second job they don't get paid for, right? Because all these people have day jobs. They're going a lot of hours in the week, and they're coming home and spending all their hours in the evening, taking time away from their family, from their other responsibilities, from their social lives, from anything else. It's real easy for them to get burned out and stop being passionate about it. So to me, I am unbelievably sympathetic to that position, because I have been there, I have experienced that, and I know how awful it is. And it's something that you only feel if you have tried to birth something super creative into the world, and it's taken that long to do it. So there you go. That's my quick thought on that. I really wanted to get that out there, because that really resonated with me, and I just wanted to make sure everybody really thinks about that perspective. I know we all want the best possible game as soon as possible, of course, and everybody wants. I don't think I mean, LT, do you think there's anybody who has a red badge who doesn't want to give the best possible game as soon as possible?
They want to do it as soon as possible, but they want to do it correctly. And no, I mean, that's kind of the reason we have the red badges is because, dedicated to purpose. But just to touch on what you were saying before I lose this train of thought, this little thing that came into my head when you were saying that, what you're saying about how it's like a second job and everybody that's working on it really, really hard is trying to do their absolute best and put out something that everyone's going to like. What ends up happening too, and it's going to happen no matter what, God himself could come down, write the ninth age, and somebody is going to complain about it vocally. And whether or not their argument is good or not doesn't even matter because it's human nature. When you put your heart and soul into something and you put it out there, 89 out of 90 people could say, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my entire life. It's wrapped in diamonds and gold. I love this. You're only going to remember what that 90th person said. This is absolute trash. I could do better in my sleep. And that's the comment that's going to resonate with these people. Well, after 1.2, clearly more than just that one person said anything negative. But the comments and the problems are what everyone focused on. Hundreds of people said, this is great. I really like this, blah, blah, blah. But it was the people that were saying the negative comments. It was the people that were, bitching and moaning about everything, no matter what their argument was. Some of them had legitimate complaints. Some of them just needed desperately to, float their own ego. And the problem is when you put your heart and soul into something like that and you get bashed for it, it doesn't matter if it's just by one or two people. That's a real good way to burn someone out or deter them from trying as hard the next time. So I don't know for sure, but in my opinion, part of this freeze is to let those people kind of recover, build their confidence back up a little bit. And I know that sounds like, a bit of a sissy thing or whatever, but that's just human nature. I mean, you put your stuff out there and somebody bashes it, right, wrong, or indifferent. It's going to take it's gonna wither that flame of passion a little bit, and it takes a little bit of time for it to flare back up. And again, that's hopefully something that can rekindle or become as powerful as it was before all the flaming started. I hope, maybe.
Yeah, well, that's a good pivot into kind of what I wanted to touch on next, which was the sort of community response to this.
Mm-hmm.
So, I lurk on the forums. I don't ever post because I don't post on forums. That's just me. But I read a lot of the responses and stayed with it and been following various people discussing this and so on and so forth. What do you think the response was overall to this in the community? Like, what's your finger on the pulse? And do you think there are subsets that, do you think there's explanations for why they feel like that, or what would you pin as the explanations for why they feel that way? You understand what I mean?
Well, let me start this off. I totally get what you're getting at. Yeah, let me start this off with I have fun. I'm relatively joking around guy and stuff like that. But there have been some individuals on the forums that if I ever meet in real life, I'm going to commit a felony. I just know it because some of these people, it is so blatantly obvious that they just are there to troll and flame, and no matter what the argument is, they just think that nope, doesn't matter. This is what I said, and I'm Jesus Christ incarnate. Those individuals, like I said, they're the epitome of everything that's wrong with an internet warrior. And oh God, one day. Anyway, so I tend not to post on the forums anymore because I have said a few passionate and wrongfully so violent responses to people, and I got my EP slapped by the mods and stuff, and rightfully so. So I tend to lurk more on the forums now rather than engage, and if I do engage, I usually don't follow up, just because out of the hundreds of people that say something positive, it's the 2 or 3 people that are just there to drum up hate. Some of not everybody that says something negative about the project is just doing the drum up hate. Some of them have very legitimate problems, and they articulate them well, and they have great examples. And there's individuals too that are just fanboy or fangirl the hell out of it. They're like, no, everything is perfect, blah blah blah. And both sides, extremes of the coin, are bad. But it's the haters that just are there to hate. Oh, I hate those people so much. And you know who you are, you piece of Anyway, so overall, from what I've seen, just kind of lurking and stuff like that, Most people, in my opinion, understand the freeze, like the freeze. Most of the content team members like the idea because now it gives us more time with this rule set. We can get our groups back into it. We can get our minds around the rules. And like I said before, we can better articulate our arguments for or against certain things. We can refocus our energies as opposed to trying to remember all the new versions, because we went from 1.1 to 1.3 relatively quickly in a matter of months, and so there's a lot of things that are just kind of like, oh my gosh. For example, Once Bitten just put out a great video about reforming, something that every rank and file player out there is like, I know how to reform. Holy crap. After I watched this video, I was like, well, I've been doing it right, but I didn't even realize that. So it's for the most part, yes, I get it. The individuals, in my opinion, that are complaining about it, how do I put this? They're the individuals that will complain because their Ferrari was the wrong color. They're the individuals that are like, I wanted it this way, I want it now, and if I don't get it, everything you're doing is wrong, and I hate you, and you're making my life suck. Those individuals need to just realize that the sun stopped revolving around them a long time ago, no matter what mommy and daddy might be saying. Not all of them, but there's quite a few that are saying, oh gosh, this freeze is just going to ruin everything. We need more dynamic rule changes because I want to see this and I want to see that and I think things should be like this. And while those opinions are, I don't want to say valid, while those opinions are warranted, I guess, they're not doing anything to help the situation. If you thought the freeze was bad for a legitimate reason, other than the fact that it seriously inconveniences what you think should be happening in the game, go take a long walk off a short cliff. Do the world a favor. I'm done with people like that. Selfish at that level makes me sick. But if you think that it's like the individuals, and again, I don't want to delve too deep into this, but if you're complaining because your army book is in a situation that you find unacceptable, that I get, that I totally understand, that is something that should be voiced 100% and voiced, articulately, intelligently, and courteously, and will be addressed in the order received, I'm sure. But you also have to understand, no matter what the argument is, this is the decision that was made. The rules are going to be frozen until August. Short of the exec team completely bending over backwards, which I just don't see them doing, this is the way it is. There might be a few FAQs, there might be some erratas. I would be surprised, honestly. And hopefully come August, September, October timeframe, when everything gets released to either 1.4 or 2.0 or whatever they decide to do, all of your well thought out and argued points for or against will be incorporated for the good of everybody, as opposed to just the individual. That's what I'm hoping.
Yeah, I think that, like, when I look at this, when I looked at all the feedback and the discussion around this, it seems to me that this often breaks down on like two verticals. There's two axes that determine your opinion about this. Okay. So the first axis is one you mentioned, and I think it's fair. I think it's completely fair enough. If your army after 1.3 is in a not great place, there are certainly a couple out there that are, weird or like either have a problem with external balance, i.e. them against other armies, or internal balance, i.e. the value of all of their choices. Like, I know that a lot of, I said we were going to get into the armies, but I know a lot of like, good Lord, I know a lot of Demon Legion players feel that like they have some good choices, but they only have those good choices, and there's a lot of non-choices and stuff like that. Now, whether or not that's true, whatever, it's fine. I'm not going to debate about the armies. Okay, my point is I've seen that opinion expressed. Okay, so let's say you're somebody who feels that's true. Okay, then to you it's a freeze in a negative place, right? So you know, like, if you ever play the game when you were a kid where it was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 red light, you know what I mean? Like, that game I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
So like, if I call red light and you're standing on some hot coals, you're not going to have a good time, but the guy next to you who's just like on the beach and having a good time with a Mai Tai in his hand who has to freeze. He's pretty good with it. He's fine. Like, all right, I'll sit here for a little while. This is no big deal to me, right? So I think there is a logical break there. I don't think there's any kind of illusion that all the armies are properly balanced externally and internally right now. That's why there's an army book refresh happening, and that's why this data is being collected, as you said at the beginning, right?
Absolutely.
But I think where you fall on that spectrum, right, can very much determine how you feel about this, because nobody likes to be stuck in a perceived bad place, especially if that's your only army, right? If you're like a one army person, like say a Lord Tremendous, who usually only has one army in his rotation, it can be, not as positive. So, okay. The second dimension, I think, is how much you value change in your gaming, sort of as part of your gaming experience. So this is like, there's a psychographic profile element here, right? And the reality is there's a certain segment of gamers that really love change, because what they like to do is explore new options and new things. They like metas that are shaken up, right? They like it when things are sort of on uneven footing. You know what I mean? And there's a certain segment of players that don't like change very much at all. They kind of want to keep playing the same thing. And if their army's good, great, don't touch it. Get away. Stop touching my toys. Toys are in a good place, right? And so, and it doesn't always break down to people who aren't like, those aren't necessarily the same group of people, right? My point is, you can have people whose army are in a good place, but they're still open to change. They might love it. They want new units or new options or new whatever. You know what I mean? Like, there's lots of different ways change can happen. And so I think that's the other thing. You're always going to have, I think with any game, a contingent of people who are going to respond more negatively to change, right? I mean, I think
of course, yeah, change is hard, especially for guys and gals in our hobby, because let's face it, we like things our way, a specific way. Because let's face it, we don't always get things our way. And so when someone comes along and changes something that you really, really enjoy, good, bad, or otherwise, there's going to be resistance, and a lot of it in some cases. But I just wish that, and for the most part, our community is actually pretty open-minded. It's just, like I said, it's that handful of individuals that just need that attention. They don't make any arguments. They don't listen to anybody's arguments. They're just there to argue. You could tell them, no, every new rule will come with $100 bill. They would complain about that because it'd be like, why is it U.S. currency or something like that? They would find some way to make it a negative thing. And to those people, I say you should be spitting teeth. You know what I mean?
So let's move on and talk about the game. I do know what you mean exactly. Let's talk about the game itself and where it's at. Because if we're freezing in this state, all right, where are we freezing at, right? I think that's a question. So let's just start at the very high level. Overall, what is your current feeling about the state of 1.3? Give me the 40,000 foot view of where you think it's.
The actual core rules, full book and everything, with the lore that they've released and everything like that. This is just me. This is my personal feelings.
Yes, we are all. Let's just get that out again.
Yeah.
All our personal opinions. Yes. Absolutely.
Yes. This is my personal. This is Lord Tremendous's feelings. I'm not speaking for Ninth Age. My personal feelings on the rules themselves are solid. There's a handful of things that I think need to be changed. First and foremost would be parry. That rule is broken as hell. I love it because my ogres thrive on that rule. But when I go up against a weapon skill 9 or 10 Scourge of Wrath and he needs 4s to hit my tribesmen, that's broke as hell. I think parry needs to be relooked at, but that's one person's opinion. That doesn't mean I'm right, just means the way I feel. But it's a small thing, or that's actually my biggest thing when it comes to stuff like that. For the most part, I love the new rules. I love the way shooting works. I love the way artillery works. Artillery is dangerous as hell. I had a lot of people, let me rephrase that. I had a couple of people whose opinions I value tell me otherwise at first, and through many, many games, I think as stubborn as they are, they're coming around to it. They're realizing that. Magic, while it is very different, it is very much less crowded than it was before. I think, like, I've got an individual that plays undead in my group. And after the magic change, he was like, I don't know how to make undead work. It's not going to work anymore. The game is unplayable, blah, blah, blah. I'm sitting him down this weekend, and I'm going to show him how he can play undead and still make it work the way he had it working before. It's just, I think it's daunting to some people to have to not so much change their play style, but adapt their play style to the current rules, because the old rules just aren't coming back. It's illegal to do so, for lack of a better way to put it. But 1.3, in my opinion, shows that the execs, the rule team, and the background team realize their missteps in 1.2 and are taking the first steps in 1.3 to not only quote unquote fix that, but show their willingness to go the direction that the community as a whole, not the individual, but as a whole, is going to would like to see the game go. And with that being said, what my absolute biggest complaint about 1.3 is I don't like how close the background is currently adhering to the old lore. It's not exact. It's not exact at all. There are major differences, yes, but a lot like The Force Awakens, there are too many parallels to A New Hope for my personal taste. And I'm not on the background team. I don't know where they're going with everything, but if this is going to be our thing, if this is going to be a new lore and everything, take the advantage. Take that next step and completely break away. Stop following the old lore. Highborn elves can be evil. The dread elves could be the actual victims. Lizardmen could, or I'm sorry, the Sauron ancients could rule over chaos. I don't care, but don't make it the same lore or too similar to the old lore, because that not only feels cheap and like a betrayal, but it also feels wrong. In my opinion, I've read that story. I've seen the way it ends. Give me something new. If you're going to take all this time, give me new, unique, creative lore. You know, I mean, gosh, there's so much fan fiction out there already in Ninth Age. It's not hard.
You know, it's funny you say that, because very early on in Ninth Age development, we had two members of the background team on the show, right, on the fluff team. And I said, I think they have the most unenviable in the entire project, because I think they are truly one of those groups that are sort of like damned if they do, damned if they don't. You know what I mean? Because I'm with you. I'm completely with you. Like, what I want to see is I would love to see the fluff shoot off in a completely new, completely original direction. Use the pieces. Like, if you want to kind of keep the thematic pieces, what is the Empire of Thomastal? What are Saurian Ancients? What are these things? Like, they kind of can have a temperament and a personality, but we can use these pieces in a completely new way and with completely new twists. Now, part of that is my bias. I have a hardcore bias against what I perceive as sort of standard fantasy. If you don't disagree, if you love it, great. I have no issue with that. Like what you like, okay? Whatever. I'm not trying to be ant here and throw a bomb, but
do it.
Like I
ant this stuff up.
Sure. But this is such a golden opportunity to tell a unique story, right? I want to see it seized. I don't want echoes to what was before. Well, I don't know, like maybe the slightest of echo, but like really what I want is mostly new. If I was percentaging it, 95, I should feel it's different, and 5% is some slight echo. Yeah, like I'm trying to think of a similar movie reference to pin it to. I really like your example about Force Awakens, right? Because I don't want to get caught up in member bears. All right. So for people who watch the recent season of South Park, you'll know what I mean. Like, I don't just want to sit around and be like, oh, remember how cool this thing was and how cool this thing was, and now we've got a slightly different version of it. Like, that's not interesting. Give me something new and compelling that has its own strong, clear voice. But again, there's going to be a lot of people who disagree with me completely on this, and that's fair. I get it. Again, I understand totally. Because when you love what you love what you love. You don't just like what you love. That's why you love it. So, there it is. When I look at the game overall, it's funny because I look at the rules and I think for what the game is trying to do, it's really tight and like a vast percentage correct, right? The fact that you picked on the parry rule first is funny to me because that's such a non-tiny issue, right? I mean, I'm not saying it's not significant or whatever. It is what it is. My point is, it's the size of the thing. You're not like saying, oh, the movement phase is wrong, right?
No.
Or something like that. You know what I mean? Like when we're talking about scale of problems, that's all I'm trying to put.
Absolutely.
And when I look at the game, I go, okay, the movement phase feels right. Most everything feels pretty correct there. When I look at the way combats resolve and stuff like that, and the way those sort of play out, okay, that feels pretty good. When I look down the line, look at shooting, I agree. It's like, okay, I get all that. It's fine. And then I think magic is a big problem right now. And by the way, I would just like to say, I think I turned out completely correct. Just let me say that. I don't want to pull a Tom here. But when you were on the show last time, what did I say? I said the new magic system, what it's going to cause is this bifurcation where you've got two groups of people. One group says, magic is far too dangerous. I'm not using it ever. And their games are almost magic free. And you got another group of people who are like, magic is really dangerous. I use it all the time. But what I do is either 2 or 3 dice spells consistently until I really need something. And then I kill half my unit. And watching your games, I know which group you fall into for sure.
Wait till you see the next battle report. Oh God, you're gonna yell at your screen.
Well, I'd like to say, I think I'm correct because
I
see so many people talking where they're like, I'm not using magic, it's too dangerous, blah, blah, blah. Like that bifurcation happened. People have formed their camps. That's all I'm saying.
And that they have, and the coolest thing about that, in my opinion, is whether you think magic is too dangerous to use, or you throw caution to the wind and you use it anyway. And to that, those are both viable. Now you can do that. You can have a competitive army that does use magic, and you can have a competitive army that does not use magic. And 100% agree with everybody that magic is much different now, but I personally like it because in my mind, magic should be dangerous. And in this game, especially the way I use it, oh my God, yes, it is dangerous. There's a huge discussion on the forums about the miscast table alone. Some people are like, make the magic or the miscast table more punishing. And there's other people that are the opposite end of the spectrum. And I'm not making this up. I swear, go read the forum. They are literally like, there shouldn't be a miscast table at all. And both sides and everything in between. And they all make great arguments to their case. That's one of the few forums where it's like, actually, I get it. It's a sustainable center argument because every argument being made is passionate, logical, and legit. And that's one of the many reasons I'm glad I'm not on the rules team, because I honestly don't know where I fall on. Well, that's not entirely true. I think that the magic right now is as punishing as it needs to be. I think it's as rewarding as it needs to be. I do understand that some paths are stronger than others. I totally get that some of the paths need to be tweaked a bit, both because of power, lack of, and too much. And I have no doubt that the rules team agrees with that, but that's part of the freeze as well, to test that out. Less people are using magic now, and they're noticing that. And I don't know if they see it as a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know if I see it as a good thing or a bad thing. I personally love it when my opponents are like, I don't have a wizard. Woohoo! They have, other magic defense, of course, but now I don't have to worry about having to dispel their spells unless they have those damn bound spells. Okay, cool. That's one less thing I have to worry about. And when people have magic phases and stuff like that, it's like, okay, it's not like I'm like, oh, well, they took pyromancy, so I don't have anything to worry about. No, I'm doing the math in my head. Do I let this go? What do I have to worry about if I let this one go, or if I stop it? So it's cool because it throws a new variable into each game. Does he have a wizard? Does he not have a wizard? Does he have more than one wizard? What spell lore did he take, or what path did he take? Yada yada yada. And I like that a lot because taking magic is viable, not taking magic is viable. And while not everybody's happy with the magic phase, everybody can agree whether or not you take magic, the game is not if you don't take magic, you're going to lose. If you do take magic, you're going to lose. That's not there. So I don't believe the magic phase is broken. It just needs to be polished, and that I think is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like there's definitely something off with it. I don't know that I hate the risk. I don't know that I hate the idea that magic blows you up or whatever. Like, that's fine. I get it. Magic's supposed to be dangerous in this world and in this game we're constructing. And I think rules like that are they're interesting because so when I talk about psychographic profiles, there are two corollary profiles that ride along with the standard Johnny, Timmy, and Spike called Melvin and Vorthos. And the point of Vorthos is Vorthos likes when rules synergy tells a story. Like Vorthos appreciates the synergy of rules to theme. Okay, when everything fits together well into a sort of thematic, consistent whole. And to me, the miscast elements do that, right? Because they tell that narrative of the danger of magic in the rules. Like you read those rules, and it's the property of the rules that magic is dangerous. You understand what I mean? Like I don't even need to go read a separate fluff thing to tell me that magic is dangerous. I get it. I look at this and I'm like, okay, yep, that's how this works in the world. All right, fine. I think that there are some elements around magic that I don't like. You know, Ant did a video on this recently, which I thought was interesting. He had lots of interesting ideas in there. Again, just tossing out random ideas like having spells be things you individually buy, you know, so you choose them, but you pay the points for the spells as opposed to, which is an interesting point toward balance as opposed to randomly rolling the spells. Right? Because then you could get in and actually fine-tune balance the individual spells. Your little Mr. Cheapskate, which is clearly like the number you're trying to roll every time to get him on the board.
And I've said
you could cost it.
Yeah, and I've said it 100 times. Cheapskate has won me games, and it is the most broken spell in the game, bar none.
Well, and that's what's interesting. If you did cost per spell, as you know, kind of Anne suggested, you could easily bring that right back into balance, right? If you were paying for the ability to summon Cheapskate in some way, right? You had to actually like put your money where your mouth was. That alters the math of the situation. Yeah.
And there's a good chance that that's going to happen in 1.4, 2.0, whatever they do when they unfreeze the rules. There's a very good chance that could happen. I don't know. I'm not part of that team. I'm hypothesizing here. Please don't take that as, oh, Lord Tremendous threw out a hint. Guys, I'm completely in the dark with it too. That's a different team that I have nothing to do with. Thank God. But I could definitely see it because it's not the first time people have mentioned that. There's people that say, instead of me paying 50 points per spell that I roll randomly, let me pay 50 points per spell that I buy out of a path. And then I pay extra points for a trait or an attribute, or I don't, because some people don't care about the trait and the attribute if there is one in their particular lore. So I don't have a problem with that at all. If you're paying for it, how could you complain? Oh, you get to reroll your hits. Yeah, well, I paid 150 points for it. Oh, okay, yeah, reroll your dice. So
right, yeah, exactly. And I mean, certainly one of the core of this game is that it's trying to provide a balanced environment for two armies to face off against each other on roughly equal footing, right? And to me, then introducing this incredibly wild, random element, right, of like what spells you end up getting and how effective they are and stuff like that, is sort of a naturally unbalancing force. So, wherein if you don't end up with Cheapskate, like your army is very different if you do or don't end up with Cheapskate. Right?
Yes, it changes my tactics. If I don't have that spell, it's like, oh crap.
Right, and I like the idea that you have to adapt. That's fine, but you already have to adapt to plenty of things on the table, like your enemy and the terrain and whatever secondary and tertiary objectives or whatever you've got going on, and other crazy dice rolls that happen when a unit runs through difficult terrain and you drop 10 out of 15 ones or something. Like whatever crazy thing has happened. It's not like all of a sudden we're playing chess just because we got rid of this one element. Come on, there's still a lot of things you're reacting to and that are random in this game. I'm saying in this element, this is such a swingy, weird thing to still be randomly rolling, right? Like I think back to old school Warhammer, like way back in the day when you had spell cards, right? Like this is like 3rd, 4th edition.
Yep.
When you picked a wizard, you had your little spell cards that you would choose as well to go with those, right? Yeah. So to me, when I look at this, when I look at Magic, I think the main problems with Magic for me actually rest in cost. So I don't mind the risks. I don't think I mind the current rewards. Like I feel like most spells pretty good, are pretty useful. Like they do interesting, good enough things. But I feel like ultimately what I end up usually paying for it, because there's a lot of random elements to me squeezing the juice from that berry. Okay. I feel like the cost is still a bit askew. Does that make sense? So whether that's cheapened or broken up in a different way or more controlled, I'm not like, there's lots of different ways you could attack it. And I'd like to see that more finely.
Yeah, you would rather the points depending on the spell. So if it's like just a simple augment spell that gives me +1 initiative, it's clearly not as powerful of a spell as like summoning Cheapskate, for example. So having that cost risk reward more even would be better in your eyes. And I get that. I totally get that.
Yeah, I mean, like, look, if I'm building a Magic deck, right?
Yep.
Okay. Just to put this in very simple terms, and I want to drop a Thunderwolf, that's 1 white mana, right? But if I'm dropping a Force of Nature, that's a lot more mana, and then upkeep, right, or whatever. Like the point being is that these things have variance for a reason. They represent a different amount of power if brought into reality. Yeah, I don't pay up front in the same way, but the magic achieved has a different net benefit. It should not all be costed equally. That's what I'm saying. Yes. Okay. All right. So, are there any other challenges you think are out there right now, like big challenges you think that should, possibly, might be addressed if Lord T transition into some sort of more of like our thoughts for the future, right? Kind of a wish listing thing or whatever. This is just, again, to reiterate, this is only the two of us talking and our opinions, not in any way to be taken in any other serious way. This is two, and I don't think LT is going to mind me saying this, is two idiots on the internet, nothing more. So, do you have any other thoughts, like things you might like to see, or explorations of certain concepts?
One of the things that on my wish list is I would like to see army-specific paths come back. Not so much because I think there's anything wrong with Magic, just because I liked it. I liked having lore-specific Magic out there for the different armies. It was kind of an appeal. If I played Warriors of the Dark Gods, I had 4 lores all based off of the gods aspects to choose from, that only I could get if I paid the points to play that particular god. I liked that. I liked it just because it made the army feel more unique to me. Some people call it flavor, some people call it redundancy. It's just a personal preference. Another wish list that I'd like to have is, and I know I'm going to pay for this one, is some of the homebrew armies, player-based armies, not as they sit now, but new armies to be incorporated in the Ninth Age for people to play. This guy, Gnomes 2169, made an amazing Void army, and it's more like spiritual and clearly evil, but as opposed to demons, it's more like elemental and stuff like that. And I think that would be cool. I would love to see new armies introduced into the Ninth Age that we've never seen before. I would love to see a halfling or a hobgoblin specific army. Oh my God, that would be awesome. A pirate-themed army, a samurai ninja-themed army. I did a homebrew army with werewolves just because it was an itch I needed to scratch. Do I want those armies as written put into Ninth Age? God, no. But to have eventually, not nothing before 2.0 or anything like that, but eventually, if we're talking 5-year plan, I would love to see armies brought into Ninth Age that have never been a part of the world before or were shut out. I mean, Infernal Dwarves are part of the game now, when before that was kind of a niche side army. I would love to see mercenaries, Dogs of War type armies reintroduced. Just things of that nature would really expand not only the world for me, but just the variety. I'd love to see all the elves die and go away. That'd be great. But
well, along that, can I make a crazy suggestion?
Absolutely.
Maybe a crazy suggestion to go along with your thing. So something that I do when I write games, something that I'm happy to see has integrated into a lot of modern RPGs, like the most recent edition of D&D did this in the Dungeon Master's Guide, is to take, so like most of these armies are written and constructed according to like some sort of, it's not really an algorithm, but against, you know, a set of sort of core assumptions and rules, right? Like what options are reasonable and points and stuff like that. There's as much art as science. You cannot put this stuff through a mathematical generator and get out at the other side, that unit's worth 6 points of model. It's not how this works ever. Okay? Ever, ever, ever. Because things need to be considered against themselves, internally balanced against what other armies can do, externally balanced, and so on. There's as much art as science. I get that. That being said, I would love it if the eventual rulebook capitalized on what you're talking about by having a set of army construction guidelines. And I don't mean how do I build, I don't mean like how do I build my 5,000 point list. Okay. I mean, how do I build my army? The rules for building my army and how they think about it. In other words, pull back the veil of how the rules team thinks about these things and balances these things. And give some advice for people who want to make their own homebrew stuff. Show them how they go about, go walk through, these are the general guidelines we use. These are the principles we apply, points to choose options. We do this next, we do this next, okay? And then do it. Do it right there in the book. Make a new sample unit and staple in big, giant, bold letters. These things you make are not to be taken as official and, you know, they're not for tournament play, but most of your games aren't tournament games, right? That is to say, the vast majority of games played in the world aren't tournament games. They're games you're playing at your game store or with a couple friends or whatever. So if your group agrees, sure, knock yourself out. Like, you guys can have your own armies to play for yourself and have just some fun, right? Because exactly what you said, especially because I think about this because T9A has such a wide range of miniatures available to it. That is to say, all the miniatures.
Every single
right?
one in existence can be used, absolutely.
Yeah, so like, because you're not bound to one company's miniatures, and there's so many awesome miniature makers out there right now. Like, it's blowing my mind how many people are making awesome miniatures rules that they can use in their games and have good direction for them, right? So they can actually like use it with their friends with some kind of modicum of confidence that they've achieved something approximating like what an army, how an army is supposed to work and function. Right? Talk about the theory behind it. There's a side benefit to this for the rules team and the designers, okay? And that is that once you pull back the curtain and show people the way you think about this, and people start doing it, you know what people realize? How darn near impossible it is to get it perfect. Okay.
And when they're on that side, absolutely, they get to see, oh wow, all those hateful comments that really weren't constructive. I get it now. Yeah, absolutely true. Absolutely, you nailed it with that comment right there.
You bring the people over to your side by showing them in a tiny, fun sliver, disguised as something that's letting them have fun in their home games. And it is. Like, don't get me wrong, that is the chief purpose of this. It is, you're getting more empathy because people understand just the real challenge that's laid out before, you know, the rules team and the various other, and everybody else who's involved in creating any kind of like part of the rules. So there you go. That's my thought. Like, literally, if I could wish list one thing, it would be this, because I think, one, it allows people to be very creative. Two, I think it allows them to make the game their own. Three, it allows them to do lots of interesting things and stay more engaged outside of just like prepping their next tournament army, right? If I go to the trouble to write the rules for an army and then put together the models and paint the models for an army, I am invested in this game. You bet your tuchus, I am invested in this game. You want to talk about stickiness? I'm done stuck in, son.
Yep, right? Exactly. And that's actually just kind of a spoiler, I guess. Another Warhammer Weekly exclusive. A buddy of mine, the guy who usually plays Kingdom of Ecotane, has been dying to play some sort of samurai ninja army and stuff like that. And obviously, one's not available. So I told him, I said, if you can put one together and we can reason it out to balance it or whatever, we'll play games and I'll do battle reports on it and see what people think. It'll be fun. It'll be different. It'll be neat. And I've seen the spark in his eyes before. They were glowing like Saiyan glowing. So it was pretty neat. So perhaps in the next month or so, we'll actually see him with a 4,500 to 5,000 point samurai army on the table that's just ripping apart my ogres. And we're going to try to balance out and have some fun with it. Again, homebrew just for fun. But like you just said, it ignited his passion like nothing else could have. And that alone, like you said, is going to invest him into the army, into the game, and want to make it better, want to push it. And if somebody sees a battle report or sees that army and goes, oh my God, where can I play a samurai army? Well, you got to get the models from these companies and blah, blah, blah. But here are the rules that we made up. They're already on the forums, and yeah, have at you. And if that's not a great pull for somebody, there's already 13 armies out there. But if there were 25 armies out there or something like that, what other game system could boast something like that?
Right.
I mean,
right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Have like the core, and these are the approved, and this is obviously what's meant for tournaments and stuff like that. That's fine.
Of course.
That's all good and reasonable and has a completely noble and understandable purpose. But that doesn't mean that needs to be at the same time the entire universe. So there you go. That would be my number one thing. I already mentioned the other thing, which is the fluff related thing. We talked about that. Here's my other thing. I would say, so as somebody who at once, like, one of the games I designed was a sort of like best of look back at D&D.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so it was sort of a whatever, it doesn't matter. It had echoes to what this project is doing to a point. What I would say is I would love to see some look backs far, like deeper in, all the way back to the earliest editions of the game that this is inspired by, not to take those rules wholesale. There's a very simple rule in game design. You ready? Good designers borrow, great designers steal. And what I mean by that is not to take the thing wholesale. It's look back and figure out, like, every edition of Warhammer and other games. I don't even need to leave that. Go look at historicals. Go look at everything. There's lots of good ideas out there. And some of them could integrate into the goals of the Ninth Age really well. And since there's a lot of time during this freeze, I'd love to see a few, not a lot. I don't want to see, like, suddenly, oh, we are bending everything for crazy change. No, that's not what I'm on about. Okay? I'm saying let's find a few cool ideas from either the history of this game or from other new technology, because game design rules are technology. Don't kid yourself. Okay? They are absolutely a discovered technology that very smart people grind on and work on and come to realizations that build upon all the technology that has been done before. I'd love to see some of those taken and said, well, that was a really good idea. How could we utilize that? Not go plug. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying, like, what was the core of what made that idea good? Cool. Let's take something like that. Because I think there are things that have been sort of lost to the sands of time. These games that could be fun to resurrect and bring back in. I mentioned, like, the magic cards earlier. I'm not saying bring back magic cards, but the way that system worked was very unique and interesting and different, right? There could be lots of creative ideas like that out there that I don't think the Ninth Age should be afraid of looking at if they meet and adhere to the other goals of the project, right? So there you go. That would be my other thing for the future. Also, it does help actually make the game more unique, ironically. I understand I'm saying borrow more to be more unique, but it is the case.
Well, if they're not using the rule anymore, I mean,
Sure. Looking back at history and taking good ideas and then building upon them and making something new that is your own is called the way the world works, right? Like, that's your iPhone didn't come cut from whole cloth, right? It wasn't just like,
no.
There was phones, and then there were smartphones, and then there were other Apple products, and somehow all those good ideas got synergized together. And he developed this one singular product that ended up being a really, really great idea. Right? So anyway, there you go. That's my simple thought. I don't think I could add more to it than that. And I rambled on and ranted on long enough.
It was a good one.
What about you?
Like I said, I would like to see more armies and stuff like that. I mean, honestly, the game is excellent as it stands right now. Not perfect. I've never said that. Nobody has said that. Not one person has ever said the game is perfect. And they know that, and that's why they're working so hard and trying so hard to get it right. And I personally applaud each and every one of them. I mean, I couldn't even imagine what they're going through, and I just wish I could do more to help them out, but I don't want to join the rules team.
And to be honest, I don't think any of us want you there. That's
okay. That would be bad, because having an army where every unit is named Tremendous, I think would just get confusing. Tremendous is going to charge. True. Which unit is that? That one. I hate you. I understand.
Something you just said, which I think is really important, is that perfection should never be seen as the end point of this. That's stupid and impossible. And if that's what you really think you're going to get out of this, congratulations on your future disappointment.
Yeah, okay? Yeah. Go ahead and feel angry now, because that's just the feeling you're going to have to live with. I totally get that, but I do believe that it can become better, and I think that's going to be the mantra for the rest of this projects, for the rest of this campaign, whatever you want to call it. Where's the T9 age lifespan, whether it's 30 days or 300 years? And I'm kind of hoping for the 300 years, because in my immortality, I'm gonna want to be able to play cool games. But I think
once we get our new robot bodies, right? Exactly. We'll be playing
10 more years, right? 10 more years.
Absolutely.
I'm gonna grievous the hell out of it. But yeah. But yeah, I think that'll be the going forward mantra is this can be better. This can be better. How do we make it better? And there's always going to be the dissenters. There's always going to be the optimists that are like, everything is gravy. But currently, as it sits right now, if they didn't change anything, this is an excellent game. It's in a really good place. It's going in the right direction, and I'm loving it. I'm loving everything about it right now. So. And from what I can see, most people do. Otherwise, we wouldn't be having this conversation right now. You'd be talking to a different gamer.
I totally agree with everything you said. And here's what I'll say. The goal should always be, how can we take the next step, not how can we get to the end point that is perfection, right? You're not trying to boil the ocean here. You want to just keep adapting, keep improving, because there's always going to be little improvements you can make. Some might actually end up being quite big, because sometimes a little change can have a big effect. So that, and take the next step, not run race out at some impossibility. And for those people who have, I think here would be my closing thought. If the freeze really bothers you because where your army's at, or whatever, is in a not great place, okay. This is going to be a tough sell for you, maybe, but here's how I would think about it. Look at that like a challenge, okay? One, it's not forever, and again, when that's in the rear view, X months down the line, you're not going to really, and you're playing something and you're loving whatever version of your army is there, you're not going to really get too hung up on this period. That's number one. This too shall pass. But number two, take it as a challenge, right? To try to do the best with what you've got, and to try different army lists, to try different units, to try to build something really creative and different and surprise people. And to me, that is a really good feeling when you earn that win, feeling and knowing perhaps even that your army is maybe underpowered or doesn't lack the balance, or whatever terminology you want to phrase that. Or I don't want to get hooked on the semantics, right? But because of your creativity, you earned that W. To me, that's a pretty great feeling. Right. So I don't know. That's how I look at it. What are your closing thoughts here as we end our discussion of the freeze and the way forward with T9A?
Well, to piggyback off of what you were saying, if your army, in your opinion, whether it's valid or not, doesn't matter. If your feelings are that your particular army is underpowered and unplayable, that's the only opinion that matters is yours to you, and that's good. That's fine. That's the way it should be. Like Vince said, take it as a challenge, but also understand that you might be not fully correct. I don't want to say wrong, because I'm not trying to invalidate your opinion on it, because it could very well be right. But think about the old game that no longer exists. The Bretonians didn't have a new book in 10 years, and yet, actually, they didn't get a new book at all until the game ended. and there were still Bretonian players that were competitive. Skaven, and they didn't get a hardback book at all, ever. And even after the game ended, they died in obscurity, and yet people still played them competitively and did well. There are ways to do it. Hell, when I was playing Warriors of Chaos, I took a Mutilate Vortex Beast. Everybody told me I was an idiot for doing that, and I made that puppy work, and that was some of the best times. I still remember games where he won it for me, and he shouldn't have, but it just the way it worked out. It was glorious. It's just like Vince said, take it as a challenge, and also challenge yourself to actually make it work. There's got to be a way, right? So show us, pioneer that stuff, become a paragon in your army, and be like, guys, it does work. Here's how I make it work. Plah. And if people are like, well, I don't want to play it that way, I don't want to play it that way. Well, if you want to play a gun line and you field Kingdom of Equitane, your life is going to be full of disappointment. If you want to play a heavy magic army and you play dwarves, hey, good on you. I mean, way to be that obscure individual, but you're setting yourself up for failure. I understand in certain iterations and certain opinions that you didn't set yourself up for this failure, but you as a player, especially if you're that passionate about this particular army, should be able to make it viable, or at least work for you, and do that. Show the world how you did that and become a pioneer in your army. Fix the situation instead of waiting for somebody else to fix it for you. That would be my suggestion, advice, dare to everybody out there that's currently feeling sorry for themselves, whether it's justified or not.
I agree. And you hit on the most important thing I think that anybody can do throughout this freeze period. Get involved, give the feedback, right? Yeah, that's what's going to be critical, because they've openly said that's what they want. This whole period is for a lot of feedback. It's remain stable so that people can play the games, can get the time in, can make the tests, can appropriately really test stuff out and get a true picture of what's going on. So get involved. If you feel that, no matter where you feel you are on the spectrum of wherever your army sits or wherever you think the game is, get involved, give that feedback, because people are listening. It doesn't mean everything said gets immediately implemented. That would be insanity. But people are listening, reading, involved. The amount of red badges I see participating in threads is crazy. People read, people watch. Period. Okay, and it's not just red badges; it's all the way down the line, right? There's a lot of people.
There's a ton of staff interaction, yeah, at all levels. Yes, absolutely. And there's a ton of non-staff involvement, which is invaluable, absolutely invaluable. So yeah, it's a great community. It really is. I know I complained and whined a little bit about these squeaky wheels, and I apologize for that. That's just my pessimistic attitude, I guess, but for the most part, the vast majority of our community is incredibly helpful, even when they disagree. That's great. That's great, because without disagreeing and stuff like that, if just yes men and stuff, well, one only needs to look to politics to see what happens when one surrounds themselves with yes men. So yeah, I'm actually, one of the things that keeps me playing Ninth Age is our community. So that alone is just outstanding.
Couldn't agree more, 100%. All right, so that's going to bring us to a close for today. I'm going to say thank you very much to Mr. Tremendous, the one and only Tremendous One. Sir, a pleasure as always to have you on the show.
Always fun to be here. Always fun to be here. Anytime. I'll pay you to come on the show. I don't even mind.
Not necessary. And let me say, I certainly will take you up on that offer and come on the square table there. So you just tell me when. You're not allowed to make fun of round bases quite as much as you did when I'm around in your first show. But
yeah, I'm not going to agree to that. I'm sorry.
Fair enough. Then I propose my secondary terms, which is I am allowed to make fun of you at least as much back.
I encourage and support that. Yes.
Then we will get along swimmingly. All right. Then we've got a showdown, brother. I love it.
Excellent. Ow.
So thank you very much, everybody, for watching. We always appreciated it. We hope you very much enjoyed this episode. Go check out all the channels we mentioned. Links are down below for all the videos we talked about. And as always,